지금 진행이 안 되면 다음 세션에서 좀 준비 좀 부탁드리고요. 다시 한번 말씀드리지만 이 단상이나 또는 입구 주변에 QR 코드가 있으니까 원활한 그 번역 서비스 이용을 위해서 참고해 주시기 바랍니다. 자, 시간이 돼서 그렇다면 이제 제2세션을 진행토록 하겠습니다. 이번 두 번째 세션은 캄보디아 범죄 사례와 교훈에 관련된 내용입니다. 그래서 특히 이번 세션에서는 우리 미국 수사기관인 FBI의 우리 크리스텐도 오셨고요. 특히 우리 한국 경찰청에서도 이 캄보디아 범죄에 관련된 인사이트가 굉장히 크기 때문에 우리 FBI 그리고 싱가포르 경찰청의 우리 에일린 국장님 그리고 이어서 한국경찰청 국제공조계에서의 정성 계장님의 발표를 이어서 듣고 토론을 이렇게 진행하는 그런 시간을 갖도록 하겠습니다. So we will now begin session 2. The theme of session is crime cases of Cambodia and lessons learned. In this session, we are honored to have experts from overseas law enforcement agency as well as Korean National Police Agency. 자, 먼저 우리 크리스텐 첫 번째 발표자는 크리스텐입니다. 크리스텐은 미국 FBI에서 캄보디아에 파견됐으며 현재 캄보디아 범죄 수사 국제 협력에 큰 성과를 낸 전문가입니다. Our first speaker is Kristen. She is currently stationed in Cambodia with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and is a leading expert who has achieved significant research in investigating the crime in Cambodia and in advancing international cooperation. Please join me in giving her a warm round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. As you mentioned, my name is Kristen Varel, and I am a special agent with the FBI, currently our assistant law enforcement attaché in Cambodia. I've been with the FBI for 13 years and have investigated a variety of different criminal threats. I've worked crimes against children, white-collar frauds, gangs, drugs, pretty much everything. However, by trade, I'm an accountant, and so the fraud world is actually one of my passions, and so I'm fortunate to be able to put that to use while working in Cambodia. I've been in Cambodia now for almost 2 years, and I would say almost at least 90% of my portfolio and the work that I do in Cambodia relates to online scams. So as everybody's already alluded to, this is not a crime that any of us are unfamiliar with. It has been getting a lot of international attention over the last few years, and there's a lot of reasons why it continues to operate in the manner that it does, and reasons why we're all trying to find new ways to address the issue. So in the U.S., similar to everywhere else, our biggest loss is the financial loss. It's hard to estimate because we're not just losing money to the scam centers operating in Cambodia. We're also losing money to the frauds operating out of West Africa, out of Dubai, out of other areas in the world. But in Southeast Asia, the estimates are around 20 billion just in 2024. And that continues to rise. So hopefully in the next couple months, we'll get the 2025 numbers. And I expect it to be rather large. But today, I hope to share a little bit of insight of how we're attacking the scam issue in Cambodia, the different aspects that as the U.S. law enforcement. I'm, mostly speaking on behalf of myself as the FBI. I do work closely with my other federal law enforcement counterparts. The FBI is taking kind of the lead role for the U.S. government as far as investigations. And I see just mostly what happens in Cambodia. There's obviously a lot of other work that our teams are doing around the world and in the U.S. Specifically. But I will try to focus on what I'm seeing, and hopefully you guys can find some value in that. So I wanted to start for any anybody that's not as familiar with kind of the structure that we see operating these large-scale scam operations. So we all talk about the Chinese organized crime groups that are running most of these enterprises. And in each one of these compounds, I debated a lot on the order of my slides, so please tell me afterwards if you find that you wish the pictures of the compounds would have come first. But anyway, you have multiple buildings in these large industrial parks. And in order to scale it at that level, you have these property managers. The property managers are also often Chinese as well, but those property managers are not involved in the actual fraud operations. They are just providing those the infrastructure necessary to make it easier for the individual organizations to run their scams. So they're paying off the protection. They're providing not only the buildings and the area and the equipment necessary, but they're providing the protection so that the law enforcement doesn't interrupt the operations, or that the government, however you want to look at it. And those property managers are working with the landowners or the investors. So they could be the same as the investors. They could be providing that money that is helping to build that infrastructure. But we also think that those are separate in many cases. And the landowners are often Cambodians or individuals that were granted Cambodian citizenship for a variety of different means over time. Because the requirements in Cambodia, you have to be at least 51% ownership by a Cambodian. So those landowners are often complicit as well and also know what's happening. I mean, I think it would be hard to argue when you have 20 buildings that house 1,000 people apiece, that's really running just one casino operation. Or when there's not, many of these now don't even have a casino front in the different more remote provinces within Cambodia. So the landowners don't have a lot to hide behind. And Cambodia's draft law should address that. They've also taken a lot of steps to address foreigners residing on different properties to help combat this as well. And then under your property management you kind of have two sides of it, right? So you have, like I mentioned, you have the basic company operations that could be done by a third party. So they're outsourcing the HR, the engineers, the security of the buildings, your financial and asset management, food and maintenance of the buildings. That's all done by the property management and being coordinated. And those groups of people are not necessarily affiliated, again, with the actual scam operations. However, as we do in the US, those would all be wrapped up in what we call a conspiracy. So we'd start looking at our Racketeering and Corrupt Officials Act to help include them in our charging and our ability to try to deter that, because those are another avenue that allows the scam operators to continue their actions. If we can prevent those people from taking on those jobs and those roles because they think they're insulated and protected because they're not actually making the phone calls or causing people to withdraw funds, maybe that's one way that we can slow down this pattern of practice. And then under the financial and asset managers, you have the money mule networks. So we think that this is one of those avenues that is run by both sides. Some of the companies also have operators and their own money mules, but they often come under the property manager and they can reach back to the property managers to ask for the different bank accounts depending on the location of their clients or their victims as we know them. And then you're not looking at even just the money mule networks, but the SIM card networks. It's absurd how many SIM cards from the US we're finding in these locations. And so it's another area that we're looking at is how do we slow down that supply chain of things being used by the criminal enterprises to be able to target our citizens and make it more realistic that they're receiving phone calls from somebody inside the country. And then on the other side, you have the human piece of it. You have many people working under the individual companies. So like I said, you might have 20 buildings within, behind gates, and each one of those buildings might have 3 to 4 individual companies operating within that building. And those, although they're loosely connected, they're usually managed by different groups. They're conducting different types of scams. They are utilizing different types of workers. They're targeting different areas of the world. They take on that expertise and they bring in people that have the cultural background to be able to identify and target different victims across the world. And how do they do that? How do they bring those workers? They've developed individual recruiting networks. And I've seen those recruiting networks operate differently based on how or where the people are coming from. So we've talked to some Bangladeshi trafficking victims who are being recruited more on a family level, like people that they know and trust are selling them a good job in Cambodia, and their families are paying a lot of money to actually get them here to Cambodia to take on that work. And then, of course, once they get to Cambodia, they take an English test, a writing test to prove their value, and then those recruiting networks will place them within different companies. Generally, they're just operating through Telegram channels where one company says, hey, I need a Bangladeshi national that operates at this level of English proficiency or has this IT background, and then the recruiters will then help work with that company to place them. So they could also be working with the property managers or the companies. They actually really could go either way. But they're recruiting those English speakers, and English speakers at different levels, right? Because as we talked about in a lot of the other presentations, the ability of AI to allow individuals that don't have that language ability, it really has made it so much easier. And you see, but then you bring in one native English speaker for this whole operation, and they can do quick edits and grammatical checks to make sure that it actually sounds like an American, or that it's a native English speaker actually talking to you. So in the interest of time, I could talk all day about a lot of these things, and I do every day. But so here's just a couple pictures. As I mentioned, this is one particular scam compound that we were able to trace a significant amount of U.S. funds to, and so we were able to actually get access into this scam compound, and the aerial picture doesn't even show all the buildings. I think this particular one had 30 buildings, and a lot of the that brown area is actually since been built up as villas for some of the management and leadership for whenever they come in to visit. But it took us a whole day, and we only went through 1.5 buildings, collecting evidence and looking at the different techniques and things that happened. This particular one, the rooms that we were interested in were mostly conducting the cryptocurrency investment fraud scams, which, again, for the US, that is the largest dollar value of scams that we see. It's easier to convince people to continue investing when you're showing them these massive profits. But I think the scams that are most concerning to us really are the impersonation scams that are continue to, again, with AI, some of these pictures unfortunately, I wasn't able to put them in my presentation because it's an ongoing investigation, but their ability to make themselves look like FBI agents is really, really concerning. And they put our seal, they put the letters up just as if they were in an office building in the US. And it's really just undermining that trust level that the FBI has built over 100 years of investigations. And people rely on that whenever they're getting this interaction, like, oh, this must be legit because the FBI is calling. And they're testing it out. They're calling our field offices and figuring out how we go about confirming our identity to people so that they can have the clients or the people that they're contacting take those same steps. They're spoofing our numbers. They're sending arrest warrants that look exactly like our U.S. Department of Justice arrest warrants. And there's one particular judge in our district of D.C. who is getting really angry because of all the calls he's getting to his chambers about the arrest warrants that he's signing. And he's like, I haven't done any of these. So, there's those pluses and minuses to the public information that's available. And now with the ability of the computers to recreate that, it's really, like I said, I think it's a bigger loss to us is that impersonation and the undermining of that trust to us and other banking institutions and everything. So it's really to go wrap it all into the public-private sector importance and that value is that private sector, we're all losing in this game that whenever they're being able to do that and connect the banking to the FBI and to the prosecutors. Here's some more pictures of those operations. This one is not the best impersonation I've seen, but it had already been tried to be destroyed before we got there. But still, that's my seal. That's what I operate under. That's a pretty good representation of my badge. And they get into these video booths to help protect, the outside noise, like these soundproof booths and this kind of the operating environment. Here's some notes that we recovered. You probably can't read it, but that Post-it note in the middle just shows them, FinCEN, which is our financial crimes enforcement network, the definition of what it is. What is FinCEN? How do I describe it to people to help convince them that I am from, FinCEN? And then the tracking of how many scams they've completed and been successful in on those whiteboards. So I am now down to 2 minutes, and this is probably the most important part of my presentation. But very similar to everybody else, there's multiple avenues that we are trying to combat this fraud. Prevention is very important. That's something that we can actually kind of, I don't want to say control, but we can influence the most, is getting that awareness out to our people, trying to, work with the different private sector partners to make sure they're taking those steps and preventing that money from being transferred on the front end. But then, in the U.S. side, the other aspects that we can influence is the facilitators operating in the U.S., those money laundering networks, the money drops, how are they getting, the money to that second step? Where are they depositing it to get it into those crypto accounts? Which places can we work and influence those phone numbers? Again, what avenues can we actually go after domestically using our tools and our resources? The victims, proactive awareness to our victims and trying to identify them on the front end where we can and help to get that notification out. Hey, we really think that you're being defrauded. These are all the reasons. And, we have Operation Level Up, which is our proactive victim approach. And I think we've estimated a savings of about $450 million US. So we continue to take those efforts as well. But then in October, November of last year, we announced the organized crime targeting through our strike force, which is a DOJ strike force. And I can talk more about this afterwards. Our sanctions and indictments I'm over time already, so also very important. And then the international cooperation. If you need any assistance, one thing that we can bring is we have relationships with pretty much every country. We have people on the ground. So maybe you don't have a relationship with another country, but maybe we can help facilitate that because there's likely a US nexus involved and we have reason to be involved or have an interest in that case as well. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or my colleagues that are here in Seoul or anywhere else. Thank you.
네, 미국 FBI와 협력을 원하신다면 언제든지 FBI 서울 사무소에 연락을 하시면 되겠죠. 네, 너무 아재 개그였나 죄송합니다. 자, 이어서 우리 두 번째 발표는 정말로 우리 유명하신 분이죠. 우리나라의 그 보이스피싱 대응단의 벤치마킹 모델이기도 했고요. 굉장히 열정적인 분입니다. 엘린 국장님이시고요. 이분은 지금 싱가포르 경찰청의 핵심 사기방지 전문 전력가시고요. 또 사기방지 센터의 설립자이기도 합니다. So our second speaker is Aileen. She is a key strategist at the Singapore Police Force and played a pivotal role in the establishment of the Singapore Anti-Scam Center. Please join me giving her a warm round of applause. Thank you.
Hi everyone. 안녕하세요. I want to do it the Korean style. Hi everyone. I'm Aileen from the Singapore Police Force. I've been in this scam fighting line for about 7.5 years, so I've known quite a number of you because we have met for many years. So for today, I'll share on our Singapore scam situation first. Now you can see that for the first time, actually for many years, in 2017 we see a reduction in the number of scam cases. Nobody could understand why, but apparently in the number of countries in 2017 there was a reduction. All the way for 9 years it has been increasing until last year, 2025, we finally see a reduction in the number of scam cases. From 51,501 cases to 37,308. In terms of scam losses, which you can see from the red line, it was a reduction from 1.1 billion to 930 million. So if you convert Singapore money to Korean won, $1 is about 163 Korean won at this point of time. So it was a vast reduction. So I'm more confident to talk to you about Singapore's strategy now because we have some results. Right, on Singapore anti-scam strategy, what we do is that we form an inter-ministry committee on scam. This is chaired by our minister. We used to meet every month, then it is every 2 months, now we meet every quarterly. We divide our scam into 4 main channels. First is securing communication infrastructure and online space. They deal mainly with telecommunication and websites. Second, it is securing banking channels and government services. They deal with the freezing of bank account, fund tracing, asset recovery. Then the third portion, enforcement and recovery, is very much under the Singapore Police Force. We do arrest, and our anti-scam center does asset recovery. And finally, public education applies to all. Now, we have 4 key strategies in scam fighting: prevent and block, detect and report, enforce and recover, and educate public. The first and foremost, we have a project called Project Frontier Plus, which stands for Funds Recovery Operation and Networks Team, Inspiring Effective Resolution. Now, we now have about 180 public and private stakeholders with us. What do? We come together to develop information sharing. We build intervention processes, intelligence mechanism, and the most important thing is that partnership. When something happens, we know who to contact. Now, we also collaborate with our private stakeholders. So for instance, we work with the bank to freeze bank account, do fund tracing, recover money for scam victims. We work with the telecommunication companies, telcos, to terminate phone lines. And we work with Meta to terminate and suspend all those WhatsApp lines that are involved in scams. We work with the online platform to take down online monikers as well as advertisement. And we work with internet service provider to block websites. It is not possible to take down website in another country because more often than not, when you trace the website, it's based in another country. What makes us think that the overseas law enforcement agencies will put aside their cases just to trace the internet registrant for you, right? And most of the time when the internet registrant is traced, the website registrant is traced, they will tell you that, oh, their particulars has been misused. So how do we do that? Actually, in Singapore, we developed an Online Criminal Hub Act in 2024. We operationalized it in February 2024. And this act gives police the powers to issue directive to social media platform as well as internet service provider to direct them to take down the advertisement or website within 24 hours. If they don't do it, what's going to happen? As long as the website, or rather it is not blocked, or the social media advertisement is there, for every 24 hours, they will be fined 100,000 up to a maximum of $1 million. You multiply again by Korean won, it is 100 over million dollar if you don't take down. Then earlier, I also mentioned that we work with our Infocom Media Development Authority, which governs all the telcos. For instance, some of the initiatives that we have is that in Singapore, if it is an international phone call, at one point of time, a lot of our phone calls are overseas phone calls, international phone calls. So how do we help the public to tell whether this is international phone call? We have a plus sign ahead of the number. The other part is we work with our IMDA, our telco regulator, to block all the spoof, fixed line, as well as mobile lines. On top of it, if you are a Singapore handphone subscriber, you can choose not to receive international phone calls. So earlier, one of the presenters also shared, we cannot always depend on regulators, we cannot depend on all these stakeholders. Sometimes we have to help ourselves. Some of us don't have international friends, especially our more elderly ones, right? They don't have international friends. So there's no need for them to have international phone calls in their phone function. So in Singapore, if you want to send a message out, nowadays what you need to do is you have to register your SMS sender ID registry. Now, if you want your handphone message that you send out to reflect your company's name, you have to register with IMDA. Now, we also work with the banks to really protect the interests of our bank account holders as well as their customer. For instance, in Singapore, there is a cooling off period for high-risk activity. For instance, if you change a contact number, if you change a digital token, or if you increase the transaction limit, there is a 12 hours cooling off period. So the scammer cannot take over your information, change it, and then they use it. They have to wait for 12 hours. And in Singapore, we have a kill switch system. This means that other than police who can freeze a bank account, if you are the bank customer, you suspect that you have accidentally disclosed your particulars to the scammers, you can ask the bank to kill switch, that means freeze your bank account. On top of it, in Singapore, you can set aside money under money lock. This means that you cannot transfer money digitally. So if I have 200,000, I can money lock 180,000, leaving aside 20,000 for me, for daily use. The rest of 180,000, it cannot be transferred out digitally. If you want to transfer, you just need to go to the ATM machine to release your money, or you go to the bank to ask the banks to release your money. Now, the next part is detect and report. Now, we have eased the reporting of scam cases to get more people to report information to us. So we have developed a mobile app called Scam Shield. So what it does is that once you download it, you don't need to do any other thing. It will automatically help you to purge out scam calls as well as SMSs. On top of it, you can also check whether the phone number, the phone message, or URL, whether is it scam or not scam. And then further, you can also report scam on this channel. And in Singapore, you don't need to come to the police station just to lodge a report on scam. You can do it online. So in Singapore, what happens is if you are an overseas victim, right? If you want us to freeze a bank account for you, we will send the URL to you. You just need to lodge the report online. Because in the context of Singapore law, once a report is lodged, Singapore Police Force is vested with the police power to investigate and work with the bank to recover money for you. So that is why we need you to lodge a report. Then we also work with the banks. For instance, we have a 24/7 scam show hotline, 1799. Before this 1799 phone number, 4 digits, it used to be 1-800-722-6688. Very long, right? If you can remember, you will not be scammed in the first place. Right, so what happened is we also got the banks to have implement their call center 24/7 so that whenever any scam victims needs help, they can go to the bank. Then the banks also implement their baseline fraud surveillance parameters for us. Now, at the Singapore Anti-Scam Center, what we do, we have a project called Project Astro, which stands for Automation of Scam Fighting Tactics and Reaching Out. We love all the acronyms. What we do is we use robotic process automation. I'll give you an example. More often than not, a scam account is reported to us, right? So we all know that the scammers don't open a bank account just to cheat one person. So what happened is we will send a request to the bank that other than freezing this bank account for us, help us to find out who are the people who have been putting money in this scam-tainted bank account. Then give us their handphone number. Once we have their handphone number, we just need to put it in Excel, in the column 1 of the Excel sheet. We script it, we press one button. Automatically, it will send a message to all these people to tell them that, hey, you have been putting money in this scam-tainted bank account. Call the police, report to the police immediately. So you can see that over a period of 3 years, over 18 operations, we have successfully, proactively detected 110 victims and safeguarded 836 million. This is not the amount of money that we see, this is the amount of money that is in a victim's bank account. We know that if we don't intervene, the money will continue to be lost. Then we also try to enhance our enforcement via developing of a lot of policies, a lot of legislation. For instance, we enhance our money laundering law. After enhancing our money laundering law, for those who open bank account for the scammer and help them to launder the money, we are not happy about it. We realize that there's a need to enhance the sentence because after so much work that the investigators are doing, all these people only went in for 2 weeks or 3 weeks imprisonment. So we work with our internal general chambers, we work with our state courts, and we came out with a sentencing guideline. So in Singapore, if you are being arrested for releasing your bank account to somebody and it is used to commit scam, your minimum imprisonment once convicted is 6 months imprisonment. That is pretty heavy. And we are also realized that there's also a gap in our law. That is, for instance, we don't have a specific act that tackle all those people who subscribe phone line and then give it to the scammer. So what we did was we came out with a law that can criminalize those people who abuse SIM cards. And just last year, we operationalized the enhancement to all those who are arrested for scams, the higher tier ones. So in Singapore, if you are being arrested for egregious work in scam, you are subjected to caning. Maybe it's not that bad because China is death sentence, right? So we have also another law called the Protection from Scam Act. Now this law gives us the power to issue restriction order to the bank to ask them to freeze bank account of the victim. So technically we can only freeze bank account of criminals but not victims, right? So for this group of people, the victims, they are the very hardcore. The whole world knows that this is scam. The family knows. Everybody keep telling the victim. The police also keep telling the victim. But the victim still continue to send money. So we have to issue this restriction order. The first restriction order that we have issued so far is this lady who fell prey to investment scam. And she believed that she was talking to Elon Musk. Elon Musk, the boss of Tesla. We always tell her, Elon Musk is very busy. No time to speak to you or talk to you, This is definitely not Elon Musk. Then the scammer used AI to masquerade as Elon Musk and then even pretended to be Elon Musk's sister and mother to talk to her. So this victim really believed that Elon Musk really failed in his business and she was trying to finance Elon Musk. My goodness. She lost 600,000. So in terms of enforcement, we do very, very much a lot of bi-weekly operations. We round out the figure, we publicize the enforcement, the number of people that we have arrested, the number of people that have been investigated by us. We do this for our SIM card subscriber who abuse the system as well. Then in terms of enforcement, we have so far busted 17 syndicates. That is in 2025 alone. So this is about the figure that we have been busting over the last 5 years. So we work with China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Cambodia, Malaysia. So why no Korea? Well, that's partly because we haven't detected any syndicates here. So our syndicates are all based in some of these countries. So we have an interesting project called Project Frontier Plus. This is an extension of the Project Frontier, which I've earlier mentioned. So Frontier Plus constitute only anti-scam center representatives in this jurisdiction. So far, we have 13 of them. These are actually direct contact that you can reach out to. So our chat group is very interesting. We chit-chat every day, and Korean is part of it, and Mr. Park is also part of it, and we just show our team a team photo of the two of us. Over a period of about 6.5 years, we have actually recovered 734 million cash for our scam victims. This is the amount of money that is frozen in the bank account. Then lastly, in terms of public education. So in Singapore, we have a very big campaign called I Can Act Against Scams. Act refers to add, check, and tell. We always ask people to add privacy setting, multi-factor authentication, our scam show add. Check with legitimate sources, legitimate website, and self-check, especially when you got scammed. Tell the public, tell everyone, your social circles, to create more awareness on scam. Tell the banks to code switch your account. Tell the police so that an investigation can be carried out. So other than that, we also realized that other than issuing the day-to-day narratives on our papers, our media, the members of our public, they are not really receiving all this information. They are not really receiving all the public education messages that we are trying to issue out. The scammers are reaching out to our victims via Telegram and WhatsApp. So we also learn from them. We created short videos, and then we also issued via WhatsApp and Telegram. This is one example.
I am calling from the Singapore Police Force. You are being investigated for a money laundering case.
The scammers are working hard, so we have to work even harder.
Protecting you, me, and all of us from scams.
Now, I know most of you would know a scam when you see one. But what if it just looks too real?
That's why you need to add Scam Show to your phone. Scam Show is like a firewall. It detects scam messages and blocks scam calls from known blacklisted numbers.
Remember, download only from the official app stores, never from unknown links or third-party websites. Those could be malware to steal your personal details.
Installing Scam Show means that you'll receive significantly fewer scam calls and SMSs. But this isn't a foolproof thing. There will still be sneaky scams that slip through the gaps.
So you have to check with official sources. Call the helpline. No government official will ask you for your personal banking details.
Or ask you to transfer money to the police or the banks, especially over the phone.
Being scammed is not a vibe. So tell your family and friends to act against scams.
So the pretty lady that is beside me is actually our Minister of State. So you can see that our politicians are very into fighting scams. So nowadays you can see that in Singapore Police Force, we not only must do investigation and operation, we also must do acting. So life has actually been very, very tough for us. So in conclusion, we think that these are the following, 3 factors that can lead us to win this scam war. First and foremost, sustained commitment. Sustained commitment not only from individual, but from the government, from stakeholders, from all of us internationally. A whole of society resolve, everybody must come together. It's not about you win or I win. It is about every of us, the right ones, the right fighters, come and win together. And international cooperation and action. So we don't talk only, we really must come together to take action to bust all these scam syndicates. With that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
네, 정신이 확 깨는 그런 발표였던 것 같습니다. 굉장히 그 방송도 잘 맞으시는 것 같아요, 우리 에일린은. 앞서서 우리 크리스텐에서 이 발표하면서 이제 미국 FBI의 굉장히 효과적인 수사 시스템과 FBI를 또 속이는 여러 가지 그 사기 그런 범죄가 있다라는 거에 대해서 굉장히 인사이트가 있었고, 우리 에일린 같은 경우는 이제 기본적인 사기 방지에 대한 전략과 그리고 사기 방지 센터의 효과성, 그 신속한 조치에 좀 방점을 둔 그런 발표가 아니었나 생각이 됩니다. 다시 한번 감사드리고요. 이어서 우리 경찰청에서 현재 국제협력과 관련된 인터폴과 굉장히 공조하면서 커다란 그런 우리 사기 방지에 대해서 국내 경찰청을 대변하는 그런 역할을 하고 있는 우리 경찰청 국제공조계에서 정성훈 계장님이 발표를 해주시도록 하겠습니다. 여러분 큰 박수로 맞이해 주시기 바랍니다.
네, 안녕하십니까. 저는 그 경찰청 그 동남아 공조계장 정수원 경정입니다. 이 마이크가 원래 목소리가 이 정도 마이크 목소리가 원래 큰 게 아니라 우리 알린 국장님 목소리가 엄청 컸는데 네, 제가 다음으로 발표를 하게 됐습니다. 저는 오늘 그 초국가 범죄에 대한 경찰청의 대응, 특히 동남아 스캠 범죄 대응을 중심으로 발표를 하고자 합니다. 그 다음 슬라이드를 보시면 오늘의 목차는 다음 장 혹시 제가 넘겨야 되는 건가요? 이게 네, 다음 편 혹시 넘겨주실 수 있으신가요? 네네. 제가 넘겨요. 네네. 그 먼저 그 저희 대응 배경 그리고 지금 캄보디아에서 활동을 하고 있는 코리아 전담반, 국제공조 협의체 또 초국가 범죄 특별대응본부 순으로 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 그 먼저 보시면 그 동남아 지역을 거점으로 하는 초국가 스캠 범죄는 지난 수년간 변화를 많이 겪어왔습니다. 과거 보이스피싱이 단순한 전화통화 기반의 기망 행위였다면 현재 스캠 범죄는 대규모 자본과 조직이 결합된 범죄 산업의 형태를 띠고 있습니다. AI를 기반으로 한 기술의 발전, 개인정보 유출로 인한 맞춤형 시나리오 등 스캠 범죄가 확산이 되고 있는 배경에는 여러 가지가 있다고 봅니다. 저희는 그 중에 하나로 그 이전에 라오스 경제 특구에서 거점을 둔 범죄에 대한 국제사회 단속이 강화되면서 범죄 조직들이 인접 국가로 이동을 했다고 보고 있습니다. 각 기관별로 범죄의 동향을 파악하는 그 여러 가지 경로가 있겠지만 저는 경찰청 국제공조 업무 담당자로서 도피 사범, 그러니까 국내에서 그 범죄를 저지르거나 해외를 기반으로 그 범죄를 저지르고 있는 도피 사범의 숫자의 증감으로 저희는 그 초국가 범죄의 경향을 판단할 수 있습니다. 여기 보시면 캄보디아 도피 사범 발생 현황이 있는데요. 23년에는 21명이었습니다. 그러다 24년에 123명이 됐고 작년에 399명, 거의 400명에 이제 육박을 하는 도피 사범이 캄보디아에서 발생을 했고 그 단일 국가 중에 가장 많은 도피 사범이 캄보디아로 도피를 한 걸로 알고 있습니다. 그리고 25년 국제 엠네스티에서 캄보디아 국경 및 해안 지역에 스캠 단지가 확인되고 있다고 발표를 했는데 저희 경찰청에서 파악한 인터폴 수배 데이터를 그 기반으로 해서 본 것과 거의 일치를 하였습니다. 이렇게 범죄 근거지가 변화를 한 건 단순한 이동을 넘어서 조직이 아예 대규모하고 체계화되고 있습니다. 이들은 다국적 범죄 조직을 결성을 하고 국적에 따라 중국팀, 한국팀 이렇게 결성을 하면서 국가별로 범행을 자행하고 또 여러 국가에서 피해를 양상을 하고 있습니다. 범죄 유형 역시 금융기관 사칭, 수사기관 사칭, 로맨스 스캠 등 다양화되고 있습니다. 초기에는 이들이 SNS를 통해서 그 국내 그 한국인들을 그러니까 취업 광고를 하고 한국인들을 폭행 감금하는 방법으로 범행 인력을 수급했는데 이후에는 조직원들이 국내 지인을 직접 접촉을 하거나 캄보디아 내에서 경쟁 조직원들을 스카우트하는 방법으로 발전을 했습니다. 그 FBI에서 말씀을 하신 것처럼 가족 기반으로도 하는 그 범죄 조직, 그러니까 범죄 조직원들을 수급을 하는 형태로도 발전을 하고 있습니다. 최근에는 조직원들이 그 장기 체류, 다른 곳으로 도주하지 못하도록 마약류를 투약을 권고 강요하면서 범죄의 지속성을 확보를 하고 있으며 카지노를 통해서 범죄 수익을 세탁하거나 대포 통장을 대여해주는 형태로 조직에 가담을 하고 있습니다. 아니면 아예 별도의 대포 통장을 공급을 하는 법인을 만들어서 전문적으로 통장을 제공하고 자금을 세탁하는 등 조직이 전문화되고 세분화되고 있습니다. 특히 스캠 조직에 대한 그 국제사회 단속이 강화되자 이를 피하기 위해서 소규모로 주택, 원룸형 건물로 숨어들어서 은밀하게 점조직 형태로 조직을 운영하는 정황도 최근에는 포착이 되고 있습니다. 이와 같이 이들은 단순 스캠 기반 범죄 집단이 아니라 범죄자 인적 교류, 자금 세탁, 마약, 카지노 등이 연계된 초국가 범죄 생태계로 점차 변모를 하고 있습니다. 이에 한국 경찰청에서는 캄보디아 내 범죄 단지에 대한 대대적 단속과 그 감금, 우리 국민을 구출하기 위해 캄보디아 경찰을 상대로 공조를 진행하였습니다. 다만 국경 인근의 다수 국가의 거점을 두고 옮겨 다니는 범죄의 특성으로 인해 캄보디아 경찰과 한국 경찰의 단독 대응만으로는 범죄 단지 소탕에 한계가 있었습니다. 이에 현지에 한국 경찰관을 파견하는 형식의 코리아 전담반 설치를 추진하였고, 피해 국가 국제 공조의 효과를 극대화하기 위하여 대한민국 주도의 스캠 범죄 공조 플랫폼인 국제 공조 협의체를 발족하였습니다. 또한 범정부 차원에서 수사력, 외교력, 정보력 등 국가 역량을 총동원한 초국가 범죄 특별대책본부도 출범하였습니다. 코리아 전담반부터 설명을 드리겠습니다. 한국 경찰청에서 지난해 11월 캄보디아 경찰청과 코리아 전담반 설치를 위한 MOU를 체결을 하였고, 12월에 본격적으로 한국 경찰청 소속 수사관 7명, 캄보디아 경찰청 소속 경찰관 12명 등 총 19명으로 구성된 코리아 전담반을 설치하였습니다. 이들은 합동 근무를 수행하며 단순히 정보 교환의 수준을 넘어 첩보 수집부터 검거 작전, 증거 분석 등 수사의 전 과정을 함께 진행하였습니다. 특히 현지 온라인 스캠 범죄 특성을 고려해 디지털 증거를 추출할 수 있는 디지털 포렌식 전문가도 함께 파견을 하였습니다. 현지 실정에 밝은 캄보디아 경찰의 정보망과 한국 경찰의 체계적인 수사 기법을 결합한 코리아 전담반은 가시적인 성과를 도출하고 있습니다. 3월 23일 기준 통계입니다. 출범 이후 총 19건의 합동 작전을 수행하였고, 스캠 조직원 165명을 검거하고 5명을 구출하는 성과를 거두었습니다. 이와 같이 캄보디아 경찰과의 현지 밀착형 공조는 캄보디아의 신뢰관계를 비약적으로 강화시켰고, 대한민국 경찰과 협력하면 성과가 나온다는 인식을 현지에 심어주는 계기가 되었습니다. 다음은 국제공조 협의체에 대해서 설명을 드리겠습니다. 앞서 발표를 하신 것과 마찬가지로 스캠 범죄는 어느 한 국가의 노력만으로는 근절이 될 수가 없습니다. 범죄 조직은 한국인을 표적으로 삼으면서 거점은 캄보디아나 라오스에 두고 서버는 제3국을 이용하고 자금 세탁은 또 다른 국가의 가상자산을 활용하는 등 국경을 넘나들며 범행을 자행하고 있기 때문입니다. 이러한 초국가 범죄에 대응하기 위하여 작년 10월 23일 서울에서 국제경찰기구 및 주요국 법집행기관이 참여하는 국제공조협의체를 발족하였습니다. 국제공조협의체의 발족 배경에는 그간 국가 간의 정보 공유 속도가 지연되면서 범죄 조직에 빠르게 대응하는 데 한계가 있다는 문제의식을 자리잡고 있었습니다. 이를 극복해서 실시간 범죄 정보 공유를 하고 동시다발적 합동 작전이 가능한 글로벌 공조 플랫폼을 만드는 것이 국제공조협의체 발족의 핵심 목적이었습니다. 국제공조협의체를 활용한 대한민국 경찰청의 국제공조 작전이 바로 브레이킹 체인스였습니다. 이 작전의 명칭은 국경을 넘어 복잡하게 얽혀있는 스캠 단지, 인신매매, 온라인 사기 연결고리를 근본적으로 끊어내겠다는 강력한 의지를 상징합니다. 작전은 현재 1차 회의, 2차 회의 두 번이 진행이 되었고요. 작년 11월 1차 회의 때는 총 26건의 사건이 논의되었고, 2차 회의 때는 49건의 사건이 논의되었습니다. 저희가 국제공조협의체 브레이킹 체인을 작전을 한다고 하면 그날 작전을 한다고 이제 잘못 생각을 하고 계신 분들이 계셔서 이게 뭐 외부로 유출이 돼도 되냐 이런 말씀을 많이 하셨는데, 실제로 이날 모여서 각 국가끼리 가지고 있는 사건, 가지고 있는 첩보를 공유를 하는 것입니다. 그 결과 한국 경찰청에서 캄보디아, 태국, 중국, 베트남, 필리핀 등과 공조를 했고 총 48명의 스캠 조직원을 검거하고 23명을 국내로 송환해오는 성과를 거두었습니다. 다음은 초국가 범죄 특별대응본부입니다. 해외 거점 조직의 완전한 척결은 경찰 수사력만으로는 달성하기 어렵습니다. 이에 금융당국의 협조, 외교적 협상, 정보기관 역량이 하나로 결집되어야 합니다. 대한민국 정부에서는 12월 경찰청, 법무부, 외교부, 국정원 등이 참여하는 범정부 초국가 범죄 특별대응 TF를 구성하였습니다. 이 가장 상징적인 실적은 언론에 많이 보셨겠지만 지난 1월 23일 사상 최대 규모 전세기 송환 작전이었습니다. 캄보디아에서 검거된 73명의 한국인 피해자를 전세기에 실어 국내로 압송한 작전이었고, 단일 국가 기준으로는 역대 최대 규모 송환 사례였습니다. 제가 개인적으로는 전세기 송환 실무를 한 3번 정도 담당을 했었습니다. 2005년 9월에 필리핀에서 전세기 송환할 당시 49명이었고 그 당시로서는 그게 단일국가 역대 최대 규모였고, 10월에 다시 캄보디아에서 단일국가 역대 최대 규모 63명, 그 다음에 1월에 13명 등 전 세계가 한 번 뜰 때마다 단일 국가 역대 최대 규모 숫자가 경신이 되었습니다. 1월 달에 작전이 의미가 있는 것은 짧은 시간에 각 기관의 역량이 완벽하게 조화된 결과입니다. 국정원에서 해외 거점 심층 정보를 제공했고, 경찰청은 코리아 전담반을 통해 현지 검거를 주도하고, 국수본과 국제공조 담당 부서에서 송환 실무를 담당했고, 외교부에서는 캄보디아 정부와 신속한 협상으로 송환을 이끌어낼 수 있었습니다. 이러한 총력대응의 결과로 캄보디아 내 한국인 감금 실종 의심 신고가 10월 말 이후 눈에 띄게 감소하는 추세를 보이고 있습니다. 대한민국 경찰청은 동남아시아 지역 스캠 범죄에 대해 대응하여 전례 없는 성과를 거두고 있습니다. 현지에 코리아 전담반이라는 강력한 수사 거점을 마련하였고, 국제공조 협의체를 통해 글로벌 스캠 범죄 대응의 주도권을 확보하고, 브레이킹 체인스 작전을 통해 범죄 조직을 타격했습니다. 나아가 범정부 차원의 초국가 범죄 특별대응본부를 통해 외교, 정보, 수사가 결합된 대응 모델을 완성하기도 했습니다. 앞으로도 대한민국 경찰청은 스캠 범죄 대응 과정에서 구축된 네트워크 등 인프라를 활용시켜 국제 공조를 강화해 나갈 예정입니다. 특히 범죄 조직의 주요 수입원인 스캠 범죄와 마약 범죄를 동시에 타격하지 않고서는 언제든지 스캠 단지가 부활될 수 있습니다. 경찰청에서는 초국가 조직화된 스캠 마약 조직의 근절을 위해 스캠 범죄 국제 공조 플랫폼을 마약으로 확장을 하여 브레이킹 체인스 2.0을 추진해서 스캠 범죄와 마약 범죄 관련 국제공조 시너지를 창출해 나갈 예정입니다. 앞으로도 우리 국민의 소중한 재산과 안전을 침해하는 초국가 범죄 세력에 대해 안전지대는 없다는 사실을 증명해 나갈 것입니다. 오늘 제 발표를 경청해 주셔서 감사합니다. 이상입니다.
네, 여러분도 잘 느끼시겠지만 굉장히 많은 국제 공조가 이루어지고 있습니다. 참고적으로 여러분의 이해를 돕고자 우리 에일린이 얘기하셨던 프론티어 11은 국가 중에서 사기방지 센터가 있는 국가들의 사기방지 센터의 협력 체인을 말하는 거고요. 지금 우리 정성계장께서 말씀 주신 국제공조 체인은 다국적 국가들의 어떤 그 사기범죄의 예방을 위한 효과적인 공조 체계로서의 더 큰 그런 협력체계 두 가지가 다 효과적이라고 말씀드릴 수 있다라는 점을 말씀드릴 수가 있고요. 그래서 이제 공공과 민간의 협력이 그 어느 것보다 중요하다라는 점을 다시 한번 강조드리고요. 자, 이어서 우리 종합 토론 시간이 있겠습니다. 우리 국내 사기 방지 분야에서는 아마 제일 대가로 알고 있습니다. 우리 국립경찰대학교 서준배 교수님을 소개합니다. 자, 종합 토론자들 앞으로 나와주시기 바랍니다.
예. 방금 소개를 받은 경찰대 서준배 교수입니다. 인사드리겠습니다. 오늘 이 세션도 아주 뜨거운 열정이 느껴지고 있는데요. 우리 참석해 주신 귀빈 여러분, 그리고 우리 참석자분들 정말 진심으로 감사드립니다. 제가 영국에서 사기 방지에 관한 그 박사 논문을 쓸 때만 해도 이렇게 우리 사기 범죄에 있어서 국제적인 협력과 대응이 이렇게 필요하고 끝없이 중요해질 줄 몰랐는데, 지금 사실은 우리 에일린 선생님을, 우리 에일린 국장님을 대한민국 경찰청에 소개를 한 사람이 접니다. 저랑 우리 강욱 회장님 그리고 고철수 부회장님이 한국금융범죄예방협회를 만들고 한 4년 전에 만들었는데요. 우리가 에일린 부국장님을 만들어가지고 싱가포르의 사기방지센터가 우리 대한민국의 스캠 센터의 모델이 돼야 된다, 그런 제안을 경찰청에 드렸고, 그래서 여러분도 아시겠지만 지금 광화문에 우리 보이스피싱 통합대응단, 전기통신금융사기 통합대응단이 만들어졌습니다. 그래서 여러분들 1394, 에일린이 아까 긴 전화번호가 쓸데없어가지고 네 자리로 만든 것처럼 우리 대한민국도 1394, 일생을 구하는 사람들이라는 그런 그 통합대응센터가 만들어졌죠. 그리고 오늘 발표해 주신 글렌 프리차드도 제가 유엔에서 만나서 또 한국에 소개해드렸는데, 정말 이제는 우리 대한민국이 스캠 방지에 있어서 오히려 이제 모범이 됐다. 하지만 싱가포르는 여전히 앞서 나가고 있다. 그런 걸 좀 부럽게 생각하고 있습니다. 시간이 제한되어 있는 관계로 제가 질문을 각 그 분들께 한 분씩 드릴 건데요. 먼저 우리 FBI의 크리스틴 베럴 선생님께는 지금 FBI가 캄보디아에서 이런 수사를 하고 있는데 이런 그 기소를 하는 데 있어서 어려움은 없는지, FBI는 어떻게 이걸 해결하고 있는지 그 질문을 드리도록 하겠습니다. Ms. Varel, the FBI has extensive experience in dismantling transnational fraud network. In many cases, the perpetrators, the victims, and financial flow span multiple jurisdictions. From the FBI's perspective, what has been the single greatest operational barrier to achieving successful prosecution in Cambodia?
Thank you. So for us, is this on? So for our biggest challenge, as we've all shared, is the cross-border nature of crimes, and the relationships between governments mean that those cooperation agreements are different in each place. And in Cambodia, we do not have an extradition agreement or a mutual legal assistance treaty. So for us, as many victims as we have, and we're trying to prosecute and put those cases together and build those cases, we do not have American subjects or perpetrators. I think we've identified maybe one or two. We'd be happy to take them on if they were there. And I'm not trying to say that we're better because we don't have those, but it introduces that challenge of getting the Cambodians to cooperate with us when they don't see. It's harder for them to see that U.S. nexus without already having those subjects identified as Americans. And it takes a while for them to actually look at the computers to confirm that there are American victims. I think this is just my estimation, there's 80% of the operations probably have an American victim. It seems ours are a lot more vulnerable to sending a lot more money than maybe some other countries, but they don't see that on the front end, and it takes a while to get there, and so then they're limited to give us that cooperation. So we've worked with their Korean partners and seen the success they've had, and it's just different challenges that we face based on our populations and the presence of Americans.
Thank you. Thank you very much. 예, 한국뿐만 아니라 FBI도 특히 이런 초국가 사기범죄에 있어서 다양한 나라들과 협력을 해야 되기 때문에 협력과 조정이 정말 긴밀하게 필요하고, 특히 미국인 피해자는 많지만 미국인 범죄자는 이제 적기 때문에 그런 어려움을 겪고 있다, 그런 말씀을 해주신 것 같습니다. 예. 그리고 이제 우리 에일린 국장님한테는 비슷한 질문을 드리겠습니다. 특히 싱가포르는 아시아의 금융의 또 허브 중에 한 곳이지 않습니까? 그런데 이제 그 동남아시아에 위치하다 보니까 인근 국가들로부터 이런 스캠 공격을 많이 받고 있는 걸로 알고 있는데, 피해자 보호와 그리고 외국에 위치한 범죄자들에 대한 수사를 어떻게 균형을 맞춰서 하고 계신지 그 질문을 한번 드리도록 하겠습니다. Miss Aileen, Singapore has been widely recognized for its proactive anti-scam ecosystem, including real-time bank intervention mechanism. My question is, when Singapore police identify that fraud operation is being run from a scam compound in a neighboring country, how do you balance the urgency of protecting victims domestically with the diplomatic and operational complexities of engaging law enforcement in the host country where the compound is located? How do you balance?
Hi. Maybe I introduce myself a bit because just now the AI is not very accurate. My name is Aileen, Aileen. So you can see that I have an AI in my name, artificial intelligence. All right, so how do we balance? So in Singapore, if we detect that maybe the scam is perpetrated from another country, once we receive that information, first and foremost, our Singapore's action is in the interest of our Singaporean. What we'll do is, Singapore law, under the Criminal Procedure Code, once a police report is being lodged, our Singapore police force is vested with police power to work with the bank to get the bank to freeze the bank account, to terminate phone lines, and to take down social media accounts. So first, we do intervention. Second, it is really about asset recovery. We get the bank to freeze the bank account for us first. Next, we are not happy about just freezing the bank account. We want to prevent the money from flowing out of Singapore as soon as possible. So in Singapore, we have the co-location of 7 banks in Singapore at our police anti-scam center. So what do? They do real-time tracing of money. So when a case happens, they just need to, amongst themselves, they say, OCBC, the money is transferred to DBS Bank. DBS Bank say, the money has been transferred to UOB Bank. Then, they work within themselves with the coordination of an anti-scam center officer. So that is very much on asset recovery. Next, we all know that there are several ways that the money gets out of the bank account. By ATM withdrawal, which we work with the banks to recover the CCTV footage very, very fast. In Singapore, we use facial recognition software to detect the people who withdraw the money. Second, money can also be dissipated via overseas transfer. Here, we work in collaboration with our close counterparts. In Singapore, quite a big sum of money has went to the countries that are actually part of our Frontier Plus. So we contact them directly and ask this country to help us recover the money if the money has gone overseas. Next, cryptocurrency. So just last year, on the 27th of March, we set up a cryptocurrency tracing team. Now, cryptocurrency is very interesting. So one thing that we have detected is that cryptocurrency, everything is via blockchain. So you can see actually everything online. So once we detect a wallet that is involved in scam, we don't just stay there. We do back tracing. From back tracing, right, not only you can find one victim that transferred the money to this crypto wallet, you can find more victims that transfer money to this crypto wallet. Then we get the information. We work with the crypto exchanges because they have done their KYC, know your customer. They have got the information, and that is what we get to get hold of the customer's information and contact them and tell them that, hey, stop transferring money in all this crypto wallet. That is very much in Singapore. Now, next, if the money has gone to overseas, we do a lot of information sharing. And that is really the reason why we have successfully busted 17 syndicates last year. Now, when we talk about information sharing, it is not about getting a whole chunk of telephones, whole chunk of bank accounts, a whole chunk of social media accounts. It is that you have that particular information that is related to that particular country. For instance, a particular bank account, a telco, or an IP address. So you go direct to them, tell them specific information, and get them to work with you to provide the information. So we have successfully brought back quite a number of Malaysians from Malaysia to Singapore, because Malaysia and Singapore is very, very near. So a number of scam syndicates are actually perpetuated from there. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, Aileen. 예. 무엇보다도 이제 싱가포르는 그 강력한 사기 방지 법이 있기 때문에 거기에서 이런 계좌 동결뿐만 아니라 또 이런 가상자산 추적까지 할 수 있는 강력한 법을 가지고 있습니다. 우리 대한민국도 아까 오전에 세션에서 말씀해 주신 것처럼 다중피해 사기 방지법이 현재 지금 계류 중인 걸로 알고 있습니다. 우리 대한민국도 이 사기 방지에 있어서 권한이 더 필요하기 때문에 이런 다중피해 사기 방지법이 좀 우리 그 경찰과 이런 법집행기관들뿐만 아니라 통신과 금융한테도 여러 가지 권한들을 좀 부여해서 신속하게 국민의 자산을 회복해 줄 수 있는 그런 권한이 빨리 좀 주어졌으면 좋겠다는 그런 생각을 해봅니다. 예. 그리고 아까 우리 FBI에서 우리 그 크리스틴이 발표할 때 우리 한국하고 수법이 너무 똑같지 않습니까? 어떤 판사님의 가짜 영장을 보내가지고 그 미국의 어떤 판사님이 자기가 영장을 발부한 적도 없는데 한다는 것을 봤을 때 지금 전 세계적으로 이 보이스피싱의 스크립트가 아주 그 수법이 공유가 되고 활용되고 있다는 점, 그거를 특징적으로 확인할 수 있었던 것 같습니다. 예. 그리고 우리 정수원 계장님 가끔 그 TV에 뉴스에서 이제 국제 공조해 가지고 송환하시는 모습을 뵌 적이 있는데, 최근 우리 경찰청은 아세안 국가들과 공조를 지속적으로 확대해 오고 있습니다. 주재관도 파견하고 합동 작전으로 이런 현장을 아주 활발히 경험하고 계신데, 이 동남아시아의 사기 컴파운드에 갇힌 이런 한국인 피해자들을 구출하기 위한 국제 경찰 간 협력과 신속성을 높이기 위해서 지금 많이 개선되긴 했지만 또 어떤 점이 또 추가로 개선돼야 된다고 보십니까?
네, 안녕하십니까. 지금 제가 말씀드린 대로 저희는 한국인 피해자를 구출하고 더 이상의 스캠 단지로 유입이 되지 않기 위해서는 우선은 현재도 홍보를 많이 하고 있지만 싱가포르에서 쓰는 것처럼 대국민 교육 이런 부분이 진짜 더 홍보가 더 잘 돼야 될 것 같고요. 또 궁극적으로는 현지에서 범죄 단지가 자생하지 않도록 범죄 조직을 더 척결해서 이런 범죄 수 자체를 줄이는 게 경찰청에서는 가장 필요한 일이라고 봅니다. 안타깝게도 한국 같은 경우에는 현지에서 범죄자도 많고 피해자도 많고 이로 인해서 저희가 축적된 정보라든지 대응 노하우라든지 이게 많이 쌓여 있지만 궁극적으로는 피해자 수도 줄이고 그다음 현지에서 범죄 가담한 범죄자 수도 줄이는 게 결국은 궁극적인 목표이기 때문에 이런 부분에 있어서 더욱더 노하우 및 공조를 더 강화하도록 노력하겠습니다.
예, 정수원 계장님 감사합니다. 지금 우리 대한민국이 스캠 컴파운드에 구출하기 위해서 코리안 데스크까지 만들면서 열심히 활동하고 있는데 앞으로 더 큰 활약을 기대하도록 하겠습니다. 예, 시간이 2분 남았는데요. 혹시 플로우에서 이런 소중한 기회에 혹시 질문하실 분 계시면 플로우에서 질문 한 분 정도만 받도록 하겠습니다. 예. 예. 저기 먼저 죄송합니다. 먼저 손 드신 분. 예, 뒤에. 자기 먼저 간단한 아니요, 저 뒤에 분이신데 죄송합니다. 예.
네, 안녕하세요. 저는 FDS 일을 하고 있는 이현을 하고요. 다 도움이 되셨으면 좋겠다 생각해서 그냥 조언만 드리겠습니다. 페이스북이랑 SNS 통해서 이게 AI 통해서 보면 불법 광고가 좀 많이 보이긴 하더라고요. 그래서 SNS 광고 방식이 한도만큼 이렇게 하는 방식인데 협력을 해서 만약 이게 광고가 불법 광고를 하면 아예 광고를 하지 못할 정도의 금액을 책정해서 이 사람이 이제 두 번 다시 하지 못하게 하는 게 더 줄어들 것 같고, 두 번째로는 요새 이제 동남아시아가 아니라 중국 커뮤니티로 가보면 중동에서도 이제 특히 두바이에서 어떤 섬 근처에 스캠 단지가 또 많이 생성되고 있더라고요. 그래서 그거를 한번 유심히 지켜봤으면 좋겠고, 그다음에 알바몬이랑 저기 당근마켓이랑 통해서 제가 봤을 땐 이게 분명히 캄보디아 비슷한 사태처럼 이제 올라오는 게 있거든요. 그걸 한 번 더 보셨으면 좋겠습니다.
예, 좋은 제언 감사합니다. FDS Fraud Detection 시스템을 현장에서 하고 계신 분데 지금 우리 싱가포르나 영국의 사례처럼 이런 불법 광고라든지 사기성 광고들에 대해서 엄청난 벌금이나 과징금 이런 것들을 부과하는 제도뿐만 아니라 우리는 민간의 인센티브를 통해서 사기 방지에 좀 차단할 수 있도록 하는 이런 시스템 개선도 필요하고, 지금 스캠 컴파운드가 두바이 쪽으로 또 건너가고 있다, 그런 말씀도 좋은 제언 감사드립니다. 예. 정말 열띤 토론과 있었기 때문에 시간이 너무 부족해서 벌써 시간이 다 돼버렸습니다. 예, 쉬는 시간을 갖고 이 세션은 여기서 마치도록 하겠습니다. 감사합니다.
네, 자리를 정돈하는 동안 잠깐 한 1, 2분 정도 휴식 시간을 갖고 제3세션을 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 우리 이전 발표자들께서 말씀 주신 것처럼 지금 굉장히 다양한 사기 방지 체계가 발전되고 있습니다. 금융위원회의 전기통신피해환급법, 그리고 경찰청의 다중피해 사기 방지법 등이 현재 법령 개정이라든지 아니면 입법이 준비되고 있다는 점을 참고로 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 2시 23분 정도부터 제3세션을 진행하도록 하겠습니다.